Okay. Andrew,
right.
do you want to get us started here?
Let's restart.
We got a full house.
Let's restart. Yep. Welcome to the Beyond the Breaker podcast, gentlemen. We have Graham, Kevin, Jake. I'm reading off my sheet, and I don't know why I didn't just read them in order, but thank you guys for joining us. This is, an episode that's going to be, I think, really intriguing for both Ben and I, obviously, but also just for the guests. We have 3 apprentices currently working for Hunt, and we're here to learn a lot more about what goes on in an apprentice's world, what you guys are currently working on. And I think the biggest thing as we talk about, the need for a workforce in the industry as a whole is, why'd you guys go this route? And what would be that message to younger generations or people looking for a career change about why they should get into it? So first, I think we should just start off to get to know you guys. And there's a reason that you are all here.
Apprentices of the Year. Whoop, whoop.
All right.
And honestly, I don't even know what the heck that is.
Good job.
But congratulations, gentlemen.
Congrats, guys.
It was kind of put out there as an idea to have some apprentices on, for folks who've been listening or watching for a while. We had on Jared Kinnenberg as a guest on the first episode, longtime field employee. He's kind of a fancy general foreman. He doesn't actually work. He's got baby soft hands.
He'd consider himself fancy too.
Oh yeah, very soft hands. Married to a hairdresser, so he's immaculately groomed. All that, but it's not just the fancy folks. It's what is it really like to be in the trades these days? And I have a very selfish interest in this as well. I've been banging this drum for 20 years. We need more people in the trades. Need more people in the trades. I came up as a carpenter. I wasn't smart enough to pass the math test to be an electrician. And now I'm at a point where I've got several teenagers and I'm thinking about, what are they going to do next? And, there's some of them who are going to go to college, but, not all of them should, right? The trades are a thing. So I don't know, with that being said, in no specific order, one of y'all just chime in, what is it you do here as an apprentice, and how the heck did you kind of start that into the trades yourself?
You're up, buddy.
So I got started actually right out of high school. I was a summer helper for a summer before I went to go play junior hockey. And then I just really liked it. I got sick of playing hockey. And then I went to go
NHL contract just wasn't interesting.
It wasn't coming anytime soon.
Fair enough.
After that, I actually applied to be in the apprenticeship program, but it kind of took a while, about 2.5 years. But so I was working for Warner Stellian during that time, and then there I was just wiring dryers and stuff, and then kind of just seeing those turn on after you wire it up is pretty cool.
Yeah. So for you,
a Jason experience.
Yeah, something like that.
No,
putting cords on and putting outlets and receptacles in.
Sure.
But,
and for you, was it always going to be electrical, or just doing something with your hands, or you breaking shit, or?
It was always going to be something with my hands.
Okay.
I could sit still.
Yeah. Right on. Jake, how about your own self?
Yeah. So, man, I was 25 years old and had nothing going for me. And I thought, I got to make a change, And so I moved out to North Dakota, worked out in the oil fields for a while. I was out there a little less than 7 years. Got injured while I was out there, and I thought, man, I got to get smart. I can't beat up my body like this, doing work over rigs and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, my neighbor where I was living, he was an electrician, started talking to me about stuff. And it was something that I had kind of considered, I'm not a sit still type myself either, love seeing kind of a finished product. So, got started out there in electrical. Somebody just took a chance on me. I didn't know nothing from nothing.
Yeah.
It freaked me out, to be totally honest. But I thought, okay, this is something I can do anywhere. This is something that is nobody can take from me.
Yeah.
And it's a valuable skill to know.
Yeah, it helps you and it can put food on the table.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I thought about it, and I was like, okay, this is going to be what I'm going to do. Right. And that's how I'm here now. I love it.
And as you guys talk a little bit, make sure too, like we all get to hear like where you are in the apprenticeship program in terms of like working through it.
Yeah.
So Jake, where are you in that sort of evolution on your way to being a journey worker?
So scheduling tests right now,
Okay.
doing as much studying as I can with 3 kids under 5 and moving and, all of that sort of thing going on.
What? You're not even a little busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
it's good.
In sense of school and then work hours, where are you at? Right, because
Yep.
you can schedule
So-
that test fairly early, but obviously your date gets set for you, and then you might have some work hours to finish up. So where are you at with that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the union hours go, there's some to get there. But as far as my working hours with the state, I'm there.
You're good for the test.
Yep.
Good for you.
So I'm in contact with them right now,
Yeah.
getting all that stuff figured out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Go back.
it's exciting.
Go back real quick before Graham goes. How about
Yes.
yourself?
I just finished my 3rd year of school, but I
Okay.
have all my working hours just like him
Yep.
through the state, so I could take and schedule my tests.
And
but-
you would have got those for the 2.5 years
Yeah.
you're waiting to get
Yeah.
into the apprenticeship
Yeah.
program. Nice. Very
Yeah.
nice.
got
and-
those as a pre-apprentice.
Yeah.
And then Graham, I want to hear your story, but then you got to one of y'all has to lay it out there, because folks like myself who never were in the program didn't have any sort of like adjacency to it. I don't even know how many hours does it take, how many years does it take, how many books you got to memorize, how many bribes do you got to pay. So Graham, kind of give us some background on your own self.
I have a real quick question.
Yeah.
So neither of you went to trade school.
No,
Nope.
Did either of you get like organized in, or did you go in through the pre-apprentice?
Yep. I was organized.
pre-apprentice.
That's cool. That's kind of like a good diverse, so I went through trade school.
Perfect. Gosh, this is why we brought you guys in.
We
already knew all this
Yeah.
stuff.
So like I kind of had a similar. I went to college right out of high school. Engineering wasn't there. Worked at Menards while I was doing that. Fumbled around for a while. I was probably 28, so I was working a warehouse job, and it's the only job I ever walked out on.
That good, huh?
And
Loved
in the mythology, I'm going to say that I applied to trade school in the parking lot. I think I waited till I got home, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I kind of had it was sort of like multiple sources were kind of pushing me in this direction. My mom had a friend who retired from the union. Well, I worked with a carpenter. I was working at Domino's also at the time. I had a carpenter dude working there who's like, if I could go back, I'd be an electrician.
Yeah. That's what all electricians say. They're like, yeah, every plumber I ever talked to, he was like, oh, I should have been an electrician.
But
I don't know.
They never tell you that if there's
Say that.
they never tell you that if there's a problem, it's always the electrician's fault, and the electrician blames the engineer, and all the other trades blame the electrician.
Yeah,
Like,
this feels like a fair
that's-
balance. Yeah. Yeah.
Circle of life.
Yeah.
Not someone.
Sun
But-
goes up, sun goes down.
So I went to Dunwoody. Good school experience. Knowing what I know now, expensive. Not
Sure.
Not necessarily. I didn't have an issue with the program itself was good, and it got me to where I wanted to be, which was in the union. But it's a little. I might have looked into St. Paul College, Anoka Tech, DCTC.
Sure.
Those 3
As
trade
other
schools
trade
have
schools to get in.
programs.
Yep.
I think there's one up in St. Cloud too, but like Anoka Tech, Dakota County Tech, and St. Paul College are the 3
Yeah.
that I would anybody, and then I guess Summit Academy. But those are the ones that I would say to look into, in addition to Dunwoody, depending on where you're located at, if you want to go the trade school route. Benefits of going to trade school: the school portion of the union, which is traditionally 5 years, it takes a year off that. Potentially, it can take multiple years off. So I test well, so I tested forward.
Sure.
Nice.
So it took 2 years off but the 8,000 hour requirement is still there.
Yeah.
You get 2,000 hours credit for going through trade school. So you start a little bit higher on the pay scale.
Yeah. There's some advantages.
Yeah.
But you were shelling out dough to go to trade school, though.
But I did, and I really like, this is kind of just a personal preference thing. I really would, my hope for the future is that more people go in, not that I have a problem with trade school, but I would like to see more people getting in pre-apprentice type
Yeah.
thing, because it seems like it's it's funny because I literally just had somebody ask me about this. Like, I got a nephew. He's about to graduate high school. What should he do? He wants to do this. And I wish there was like a really straight path.
Something that was perfect and clear.
Right. And it's a little bit muddy because it's kind of these three paths where it's, do you pre-apprentice? Do you work non-union and get organized in? Or do you go to trade school? Trade school is kind of the long path, I think, and you're paying for it and not getting paid. But I think it's the easiest if you have no family, no contacts.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
Because it's a full set of like school year.
Yeah.
Right. And you could work in the summers and get that experience, but
correct. And a lot of people do. And a lot of people, like I know there's somebody in the warehouse for Hunt right now who's going through trade school who got a pre-apprenticeship through going to trade school.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a
and I think in this is just more so speaking from a 110 mindset, just in having dealt with that in the past, but even from 292 and 343 is like, it's in terms of getting into the apprenticeship program, it's work experience, trade school experience, and then for the unions, it's union work experience, right? So in your sense, you had a lot of work experience, right? You got organized in, there's a jump there. I can trust that you have an idea of what goes on at a job site as opposed to the person who, you know, was a chef or a cook somewhere, because that actually there's a lot of electricians that came from that field. And then Kevin, from your perspective, right, it was union work experience. And then the trade school. So they all are very different and beneficial. And I think what's great about 110 is they just limited now those pre-apprentice hour requirements for direct entry. To your point, it's getting them in a little bit quicker. So Kevin, I'd love to hear more about your pre-apprentice experience and kind of what that was like. I know 2.5 years probably seems like a long time, but I think it's the next step, right? You're doing that and then it's right into it. Tell us about what that was like for yourself, the change from day one to, let's say, day one of year two, and what different type of work you were doing just based on learning from on the job experience, not even being in school.
Yeah, so that whole time I was doing building automation systems and like temperature control work.
Okay.
So I don't know, I think just being on the job, I learned a lot more about like conduit bending and just a lot more about construction work. Yeah. Compared to other things I've done in my life.
But I think probably a big confidence thing too. Oh yeah, right? You just 90-degree bends where at first you're sitting there like really measuring it out. You watch a guy and you're like, dude, that shouldn't take you a minute. Right. That should take 5 seconds.
Yeah, like being in class watching other guys bend pipe, you're like,
I've been there before. I've been there.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just, especially because I was working with the same guy every day.
Yeah.
And like kind of going around with him, like just learning from the same person.
Good mentor.
It helped a lot.
Still somebody that you stay in contact with?
Yeah, I talk to him a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah, making connections. That's great.
Yeah. And then going one step further, what was that jump like from once you got into the apprenticeship program to now balancing, all right, I got the first year apprentice title on, I'm not just a pre-apprentice anymore. So I'm expected to be able to do a little bit more. And then also I'm in school.
Yeah.
So I got 4 days of work a week and then school, and you were out of school for, if I do the math correct, 3.5 years since high school.
Well, I played juniors for a year, and then I was at Warner Stellian for 2 years.
Okay, so so you hadn't been in a classroom for a while, right? Yeah, so what was that like then, getting in the routine of like, okay, this is now, I'm truly at school at the apprenticeship program for my career. Versus high school, you're learning about calculus. So you're like asking, where am I ever going to apply? Where will I apply the fact that I know all the capitals of the 50 states?
Yeah. It was pretty tough at first, but once you got into it, it was a lot better than high school because you're actually going for something you want to. It's a career. It's not just, I got to do this because I need to graduate.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a lot different. Like a lot more responsibility on the job too, because they ask you questions like, oh, don't you learn this in class? Like, we're not there yet.
Haven't got the page.
That's a weird thing to like be prepared for, is the number of like questions that you get as an apprentice, because you're like, oh, you're an apprentice, you should like you're doing code every week. I haven't read a code book in a year.
Well, I think the number, what step you are too, changed a lot of things. Right? Like one, they understand, okay, you're probably new. Maybe you lucked out. Applied for the apprenticeship program. They needed 100 apprentices and you got brought in right out of high school. or you're the one who's just like, step one, I know a lot.
Yeah.
Now the expectation varies job to job of what the plumber next to you is like, oh, this first year apprentice in my last job told me that I could do this, this, and this. And you're sitting there like, working on my 90s still.
Yeah.
Jake, how about yourself? How about tell us a little bit about the organizing method, let's just call it, and what I would say is a great program that the unions do because it's needed. And there's a lot of really good workers out there that personal bias opinion is they're doing great work and their lives are going to be better in a union workplace. So tell us a little bit more about that.
And as you walk through that too, keep in mind, like some of the audience doesn't know all the lingo and things like that. So like maybe a little more elementary than.
Yeah. I'm good at dumbing things down.
You said it, man, not
bring
me.
it to my level.
Yeah. Good.
So I was working. I started my electrical career out in North Dakota, Sacman Electric and Controls. Some really great guys. Like I said, they gave me a foot in the door. Wife was pregnant with our second. She's like, we got to move back home. Okay.
Are you guys both originally from this area?
Yeah. She grew up in Rosemount. I grew up in Burnsville.
Perfect. Cool.
So now we're both in Rosemount and we're moving to Hastings. But,
sweet.
So was working for a guy out of Prior Lake. And I was like, man, this just isn't cutting it. This is what I want to do, but this is not cutting it.
Yeah.
From a financial perspective.
Yeah, that, and it just, very inconsistent. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
2 kids. I mean, it's a big changer.
Yeah. Baby on the way. And you're going, okay, how is this all going to fly?
Yeah.
They're easy to make.
They're hard to pay for.
And they're beautiful gifts, but they are expensive.
Yeah.
Just letting you guys know if you don't have any. But anyway, back on track here. So I knew a guy that had been going through the apprenticeship program, right? So it's typically 5 years of school if you don't already have a background of schooling to where you can kind of skip. As an apprentice, you've got to get your 8,000 working hours, right? Verified with the state to then qualify for a journeyman's test. So that's kind of the path that we're all on, right? Is to hit that spot and go from there and continue to learn, continue to grow, have a little fun along the way, make the day interesting. But for me, I talked to this kid that was, he's part of the 110, Chris Kleinbull. I'll name him.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad
thing. Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah. And I said, hey man, what's it take? What do I got to do here? I've got a lump of hours. It's all verified. What do I do? So he gave me the organizer's number, Aaron Johnson. Right.
Great guy.
So I'm like, all right, call him up. See what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing I know, I'm driving into St. Paul to go to local 110. And I'm a union member now, and they set me up real nice with schooling, kind of placed me where I needed to be.
Based on like the experience you already had, the things that you knew, the experience so far.
But I had no schooling, as far as electrical was concerned or anything like that. So, I mean, I'm walking into this thing, barely ever cracked open a code book, right? Because you're just told, hey, go do this, go do that.
Yep, you just do it.
And you're like, okay.
You know the how, but not the why.
Yeah, exactly.
Well put.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, audience. But and I remember thinking, okay, this is going to change our life, and my wife and I were excited, and I won't get teary eyed. I'm a good softy. Yeah, right. Yeah. So anyway, got organized started schooling. It had been 16 years since I did any school.
Oh.
So the teacher writes this, Sean Wire, he was writing this problem out on the board. And I'm thinking, what is that dot in between the 1.732 and the 480? What is this?
Yeah.
I had forgotten,
everything.
And that's but hey, made it through.
Yeah.
Well, that was why I had asked the question. It's like, I think that just the concept of going back to school and the discipline and simply just like paying attention to what is going through and learning in a setting that was once just every day for you, and you get away from it and now you got to go back to it.
Yeah.
Like, where's the motivation come in? Obviously it's for a career now, right? So it matters more.
But it's for your family.
Yeah. There's
big
those
time.
little things that come up that are just like navigating a textbook, navigating a code book.
Yeah.
How can I get to the page faster, not waste time
Yeah.
rifling through
Yeah.
just text after text, because that's all the code book is.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to remember to do homework too is kind of tough.
Yeah, homework.
You're just doing
Sending
day-to-day
reminders.
things, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh dang, I gotta do homework again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
That
a
was kinda
commitment.
tough.
It's a commitment, but it is worth it.
Yeah.
You know, they're really what they're trying to do is set you up to succeed and to give you a fighting chance out there and to know what the heck it is that you're doing, because what we do is somewhat dangerous in a lot of ways. Right.
Yep.
So knowing what you're up against and knowing how to figure things out and having that training made a huge difference for my life.
Yeah. It's awesome. That's
So-
great to hear.
Yeah.
Graham, yourself, you talked a little bit about Dunwoody already, and tell us a little bit more, because we have interns in the office here that have gone through the project management course and the estimating course.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about what it was like in the sense of getting prepared to be in the field at Dunwoody.
It was very similar to what the union. It's almost like in some ways it's a little deeper, but in a lot of ways it's a good precursor to the school that the union puts you through, where kind of how, I mean, I guess you guys are both 110, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so at least how 292 organizes it, but how I assume 110 also organizes it is that, like, particularly third, fourth, and fifth year are kind of segmented, where it's like, here is your year for grounding and bonding and transformers. Third year, motors, controls. Fourth year, basically test preparedness is fifth year, so everything. But the way that, and then your first couple of years are, basic theory.
Mhm.
It's done a little bit differently because you kind of get your hands on stuff a little earlier in the union, but it's sort of broken down on a semester by semester basis, similar to how the years are broken down in union school. And I know particularly, I guess I don't know how much difficulty you will have with motors and how much difficulty you did have with motors. I think especially the motor stuff is, I feel lucky. I just finished fourth year of school, by the way, which is the motors year. I feel fortunate to have had a little leg up there, because that I think that's kind of a tough year. People, it's just a different thing. You're seeing a lot of stuff that, even if you've got a lot of experience in the field, it's more specialized, not necessarily in a bad way, but there are controls guys here at Hunt, and that's largely what they do. And it's because they're good at it, and they're good at that organizational stuff, tracing hundreds of wires in cabinets and figuring out how systems work. And it's a little bit different than slinging Romex or whatever. So
Sure.
Yeah, just a little.
Not as much as you might think, but
But then too, like you're getting that exposure in a reasonably formal sense. Hey, we're going to be working on this type of stuff that falls into the electrical scope,
right.
and you can figure out if you got a jam for that thing or not.
Yeah, and it's definitely easier the second time you see anything, even if you
Yeah, for
don't
sure.
remember. By the time you get to fourth year in union school, if you don't remember anything from motors in trade school, it's still easier to relearn than it is to learn the first time.
Yeah.
So
You know the terminology,
right,
right?
yeah,
relearning
you've seen the diagrams before, you've read a schematic, whatever. So
Yeah, fair enough.
Do you, just real quick, do you guys ever look at the 292 apprenticeship building and get really jealous?
I've never
No.
even seen it.
Have you
No.
seen it?
But
No.
they probably don't show us on
So-
That's probably why they don't show
Yeah.
you.
Well,
but
incredible.
your union hall has a bar, so
It does have a bar.
We're gonna need to show some pictures, like for folks who are watching this, like on YouTube or Spotify.
Right, yeah.
Like we gotta show some pictures of this.
yeah.
No, I mean the St. Paul one, it's very nice. It's got everything you need. But when they built the new 292 one, that is like a Taj Mahal of
I'll have to look it up.
See,
apprenticeships.
where I felt good about all this was over the course of, say, my 30-year career, I will pay about $25,000 less in dues than 292 guys. So I don't know. I mean,
shots
we
fired.
still love you, right?
But the water
It's
tastes
the
better.
brotherhood, right? that could be. I believe that.
Less plastic in the water.
Yes. Okay.
All we got
fair
is
enough.
2 weeks of back pay on the last contract.
Why?
So, part of the deal with becoming an apprentice, joining something, doing something new, you're going to learn. And frankly, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. For other folks who have listened to some of the podcasts here, I'm really interested in like failure as a teacher. Like, and I mean that like really positively. You fall down, skin your knee. Okay, well, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to try something different, right? And you get banged up. That's how we learn as children. But sometimes like we forget how to be like maybe in that beginner mindset sometimes. And we think like, oh, I should know this. I should know that. Or if I'm not good at this right away, that means I'm dumb or some bullshit like that. I want to hear about mistakes. So like, humor is a good thing here, but maybe Graham, starting on your end of the table here.
Is there a particular reason that you picked me? Do you know?
You
do have
giggled.
insider information.
You giggled.
Yeah,
But I want to hear about like something dumb you did or, that you had to redo. Yeah.
Ooh.
Give me some dumb mistakes. And I promise that every journeyman who's listening to this.
I'm not. I'm not even. I was actually really. I've been really lucky throughout my apprenticeship because I've like the last place I was also. So when you go through the apprenticeship, you for the first couple of years you rotate between contractors every 6 months. You have the option to stay with a contractor, which is what I chose to do with Hunt. If you're in 4th year, or if you're at a certain hour requirement, potentially both.
Sure.
So, and I was fortunate because the last contractor I worked for was the Minneapolis Parks Board. And because a lot of that stuff is a minimum of 50 years old, you are like physically incapable of making the ugliest pipe bend in the building. Like it's just not a possibility, which is a great learning environment. No,
done
seriously.
something worse than you already.
Yeah, exactly. You're like I did like probably one of the best pieces of advice I got was
impossible.
All these guys
was
are
from
gonna
a
hear
guy
this.
who worked at the Parks Board because he's like, I was spending all this time bending whatever I was bending into like a security cabinet in a back room. And he's like, man, nobody is ever going to look at this pipe again.
Just get it done, kid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't,
Yeah.
it just doesn't like nobody's going to look at this more than you're looking at it right now. It's not. But I think we've all like, I had one like 2 weeks ago. I tried to match. There was like a concentric offset that was like a 42-inch offset in at a building downtown that I tried to match with 2 pipes.
That's a big word.
What? Concentric?
Yeah.
It's in the code book.
We might have to flash the
Jeez, dude.
definition of that up as well.
Yeah, help the audience.
I tried to match 2 pipes that already existed.
Yeah.
Pipes.
Yeah. Thank you for breaking it down for us. Appreciate that.
And and it looked horrible. But fortunately it was in a 100-year-old building.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I've like, it's nice when you do underground because then you get to bury your mistakes.
Sure.
Literally.
But I've heard the 110 guys talk about the pride they take and the way their bends look. So
Oh man.
I don't know.
We're trying to start a
pit us
little
against each
war
other
here.
Just pick on you.
I don't know. Like I also spent a number of months here at Hunt with the generator team, and there's a few pieces of PVC on a few people's houses that I'd rather not show. I'm gonna be honest.
But let's leave it at that. Yeah.
But the takeaway that I would like, I would like to tell future apprentices that it is kind of intimidating when the journeyman hands you the bender or whatever and is like, all right, do it. And you feel that pressure, but you really can't be afraid. I mean, you can be afraid, but you've got to try it. Just give it a shot.
They're going to happen.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
They're gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. You're gonna do something ugly, then you're gonna cut it in half and throw it in the dumpster, and then you can do it again.
Why do they make couplings?
Yeah,
Just cut it right in half. You're good. Just flip it around.
Yep.
Jake, how about yourself?
Oh man,
Any glaring ones out there?
there's a couple. Yeah. So in yesteryear, we'll call it, right?
Yep. No specific dates, locations,
Yeah.
customers. Yep.
I'm in this building in Woodbury. I'm
There's
up in the ceiling. It's a general area. Woodbury's pretty big, right?
There are a couple buildings there, right?
So,
Yeah.
so I'm in there. I'm okay. What do we got here? Okay, is this a lighting circuit? Is this a what am I dealing with? I got to find a 120 circuit, right, that we were going to tap off of.
Yep.
Well, those little stab lock deals, right? My flipping probe for my meter gets stuck. I'm like, man, I didn't even push it that hard. Like I'm just trying to tap the little spring in there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, great. How am I going to get this out? Yanking on it. Well, all of a sudden, the insulation slides back, and that whole steel shaft is sitting there. And I'm going, oh, man, what am I going to do? Like any reasonable person, right?
Yeah.
I grab my linesman's. So the 1900 box is facing up. I'm up above the ceiling grid. That the poor receptionist gal. So I'm
Wrestling
trying to
this
work this
thing.
dang thing out. I'm like, I'm getting this back. You're gonna work.
Yeah.
I found my circuit. I just need you out, right? Well, as fate would have it, I tapped the box with my linesman's plier.
Yeah.
And there was financial companies in this building, all kinds of stuff. It shut the main off for the whole floor.
You de-energized everybody real quick.
And I was like, oh no. And the guy I was
Fireworks
working
done
with.
here.
Yeah.
See y'all tomorrow.
Yeah.
$5, huh?
Yeah. And that plenum got so bright when that thing hit,
Oh,
and the guy, the journeyman that I was working with, he's like, well, shit happens. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, Brian, you're so cool. Like, go.
But, you're gonna make mistakes. Like that is
Right.
part of it.
Right.
So.
And learn from those mistakes.
Yeah. Trick question. Have you made the same mistake again?
Oh, a few times.
No.
Not
one
that
specifically?
mistake.
I feel like you would
No.
have been like,
That was a life-changing
not in this
event.
one.
Yeah.
That was everything was different then.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. I guess there's a few ways to look at mistakes. If you don't learn from it,
Destined to repeat.
kind
Wasn't actually a mistake.
of not cool, right? But if it's, oh man, why did I do that? And you learn from it and you grow from it. Okay. That's part of being an apprentice. That's part of why we're out there learning, doing, is to catch ourselves or have somebody else catch us, right?
I was just gonna say, I
Oftentimes.
think because you're all in the same apprenticeship program, right? It's like
Yeah.
goals everybody gets through and everybody gets through safely.
Mhm.
If you make that mistake, you find a first year or second year, it's on the same job site,
Mhm.
and you're just sharing stories, and they probably think of it when they see that opportunity come about where they're like, maybe I shouldn't do that. I feel like Jake told me about that one, right? Like,
I don't want to do what Jake did.
but then again, you think back,
Yeah.
you're like, over the course of 365 days a year, how many times does that happen where we just limit the mistakes?
Mhm.
And that's credit to all the apprentices, and I think of both 110 and 292, it is a good camaraderie of like sharing. Everybody's trying to get through.
Right,
Nobody.
right.
I mean, if you're the best test taker, it doesn't rank you any higher than the next one when they need a call for 10. It's the first
Mhm.
10 off the book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate the candor on your life-changing event.
Ooh, yeah, man. I'll never forget that flash.
Yeah. I believe.
This was, like I said, yesteryear, right 3 years ago.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
not with Hunt.
It wasn't.
Oh, definitely
No,
not.
No, it was
Mm-mm.
not. No.
Yeah. It's time to go like full kimono on this thing.
So
What's
This better be good. This better be a big
It's,
mistake.
Yeah, what dumb crap have you
I mean,
done?
there's one of them that could have been pretty big. So I put a pressure switch in air duct. I put the pneumatic tubing in the opposite way, so it could have, if they turned the air handler on, could have blown up all the ductwork in there. That could have been bad.
That
But
would have
luckily,
been
they checked it
expensive.
before they turned it on. and
Is that because
fixed
they
it.
had an apprentice installing it and they
Probably.
figured they better
Yeah.
double check that?
Right.
And I think the controls guys, they check everything before we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
smart.
nice.
That's
But
smart.
I think the first time I was bending pipe, they never told me about the 360 degrees.
Sure.
So I'm
You
just
gotta
sitting
break
there
that down.
putting offsets and everything. And me and my foreman go to pull. He's like, it's not moving. Or it's like, it's kind of a straight run. I was like, I don't think it was.
You made a snail pipe.
Yeah. And he goes and looks at it. He's like, yeah, we're never getting through it. Because we were sitting there trying to pull it for like 45 minutes. He's like, what did you do?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can show you.
I can show you.
Yeah.
Actually, you should see that.
Let me walk you through
So
this.
it looked pretty.
They might not
but
even put a ceiling or a wall up. They just
Didn't work.
let it go
Yeah.
exposed.
Did he have you sign it?
So Graham, I got to pull back my earlier comment. Maybe not all 110 folks are taking pride in their conduit bending.
This is when I was pre-apprentice.
Okay.
Well, and just, for the listeners, apprentices of the year.
Yeah. These are our best and brightest.
Yes.
They make mistakes. We all
right.
make mistakes.
Yes.
But it's Jake, to what you said. It's learning from them.
It
Right?
is.
And it's knowing
is.
that there
Yeah.
comes a time in your career where you're probably, the expectation is that you really don't make mistakes. Right. And that's when you pass a test, you're the expert. You're the one that's training somebody, right?
There is a saying, which is that the smartest person on the job is a 5th-year apprentice, and the dumbest person on the job is a 1st-year journeyman.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
and that's probably
yeah.
and there's things about that, and there's definitely truth to it.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of like avoiding mistakes and working safely is the biggest thing. But
Don't
Knowing-
trust extension ladders.
knowing that they happen and making sure we teach people
Yeah.
that one. A new mistake is going to happen every time, but it's good that you guys are open about that kind of stuff, because I think we get nowhere in an industry that is extremely dangerous if we can't share that stuff because we're too embarrassed about it or something like that. So it's good.
So maybe like pay that forward, like staying on that same sort of thread about like learning and trying to avoid making the same mistakes every time. Today you guys are in that bucket of apprentice, and at some point you'll be in the journey worker bucket, and you got to pay that forward, right? You have to help the next apprentices come through. You will be that guide, that mentor. And whether you become a foreman or move on from there and, oversee large projects or not, what are things that you would want to say to those apprentices coming in, or say to that person who's like, man, I need a life change. I got to do something different for my family, or junior hockey ain't working out, or engineering school is not going to fit. Like, how do you encourage that person to come in, and how will you behave as a journey worker to help them learn, and frankly, do it in a positive way? I know it's kind of a mushy, messy, maybe soft question, but like,
Very
get after it.
meaningful.
I'd just tell apprentices, don't be afraid to ask questions, because you'd rather do it once than that. Like, ask your foreman first
Mhm.
or another journeyman,
Mhm.
because definitely don't want to do things twice.
It gets
Yeah.
real expensive.
Right.
I would much rather be the apprentice who asks
Mhm.
too many questions than the one who, because the journeyman can tell whether or not you think they can. They can tell when you're acting like you know what you're doing
Yeah.
versus actually know what you're doing.
Yeah.
They absolutely know.
Yeah,
So I think going at it in the future with an element of humility, like, and it can, I'm sympathetic for, if you're a journeyman and you get, and like I come at it from the service side, where like I worked with a lot of different journeymen for a very short amount of time,
Mhm.
and they have no idea what I can do, what I have done.
Yeah.
And so when
Yeah, you're new to them as well,
right,
every
so,
time.
Yeah.
So if they're taking the time to explain something to me, even if it's something that I might already know how to do, you have to come at it with an element of humility, where it's like, this person is trying to help me, even if they're maybe being a little bit babysitterish with me on this. Like, I would rather have an apprentice who asks too many questions, and I would rather have a journeyman who explains a little bit too much. And I think the really great journeymen find a good balance where they're right in the middle there, where they're available for help if you need it, but they're not kind of standing over your shoulder the whole time. And
allow you to figure it out a little bit for yourself with a close eye on making sure there's not a big mistake being made. But it's good. Jake, yourself. What's your message?
Man, God, I think back of the journeymen that have impacted me the most and actually taken time to show me things, explain stuff, or even just go, so what'd you do that for? You know, and
Kinda
make
asking
you,
some
they're
good-
almost trying to walk you through something to see if you'll catch it.
Yeah.
Right. And not in a demeaning way, you know, thankfully, at least in my case, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that's
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
but you know, when I get to that point where there's guys underneath me, we're all there for the same reason, right? We're all human.
Mm-hmm.
We should be treated as humans.
Love
Right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, and have some fun while you're doing it too,
Mhm.
as you're learning. I mean, otherwise, what's the point? You know, I'm not saying go screw off and this and that, but crack some jokes here and there.
Yeah.
You know, let's be friends.
It's okay to enjoy your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the same old drab. Put your head down and go. You
Yeah.
know, we can do this.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that you said that, because I think I mentioned this in an earlier episode as well. But the way that I view this industry, and I was always just been involved in sports my entire life and always wanted to work in sports, but you just can't do that, right? But I look at it as like, from the field perspective, it's no different than a locker room or a team.
Mhm.
You show up,
Mhm.
you put your boots on, you put your hard hat on, you go to work for the day.
Mhm.
Well, what happens on a sports team, right? You crack jokes, you have fun, you know about your teammates and all that stuff. And I get might go job to job and all that stuff. You might go from contractor to contractor, but it's a new opportunity to meet human beings. And the fun thing about it is you talked about turning that dryer on. And it's something that you can see and it's cool. Well,
Right.
now you're turning on much bigger things. Like it's
Just
buildings, right?
Yeah, just those
Hospitals, things that are making a massive difference in the world. And you can drive by and take a ton of pride in the fact that you played a large part of that, not a small part, but a large part of that.
Mhm.
So it's awesome.
And if I could touch on just one more thing real quick,
Yeah.
because I don't know where we're at time wise, but you know, thinking about it, those guys that really would invest in me and pour into me, what does that make a guy typically want to do?
Yeah.
Makes
Work
you
a little
want to
harder.
work a little harder for the guy.
Yeah.
Hey, I got your back.
Mhm.
You know, you look out for me. I want to do the same for you. You know, you have that team aspect of
Yeah.
camaraderie that then kind of unfolds, you know.
Mhm.
So I think as a journeyman, you can even set yourself up to succeed in those areas as well and help your apprentice thrive.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
a
Leadership
win-win.
is different than management.
Correct.
And
Very.
that leadership and that inspiration that goes along with it is fantastic.
Yeah, very much.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Andrew's kind of fancy. We gotta
Giant sheet of paper.
That is a big
Yeah.
sheet, man.
Change your settings before you print.
but you know, with respect for time, so we can all get out of here, move on with our day, get home to your families. Any last things that you want to leave the listener with? If that listener to you is an apprentice, is a journey worker, is an office carpet walker, as I like to call them, you know, any last words you want to leave folks with?
Just like Jake said, enjoy what you do because you're gonna be doing it for a while.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Why go to
life's-
work crabby or mad when you have most of the time you have a choice to
Yeah,
have a good time.
yeah. Life is way too short to
Right.
hate what you're doing all day,
Yeah.
every day.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love that. Thanks, Jake.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Kevin.
I just
Yes.
pretty much said what he said, but,
yeah. No.
but yeah,
In
thank
thine
you for
words.
what he said.
Yeah, right.
Allowing Kevin to use your
Yeah,
words.
just-
Oh, that's on me. That's my
Yes,
mistake.
in thine words.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, you know, bounce off of what I said and then Kevin said, and then I'm saying, yeah, you know,
Same
Just keep
thing.
going. Just keep
just
going.
to keep
Big
that
Graham
circle
will
going,
probably
right?
say it too.
No, get out there and just have some fun.
Mhm.
You know, learn and ask those questions. You know, this is stuff that you're going to be responsible for someday. This is stuff that you're going to need to know and understand. And there's going to be somebody relying on you at some point
Yeah.
as well. So have that thought in your mind, even as an apprentice, as you're out there, of someday I'm going to have to be answering all these same kind of questions.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
the sooner I figure this out,
Yeah.
the better it's going to be.
Yeah.
Love it. Graham.
You got some wisdom to drop?
I honestly, the thing that kind of comes to mind is to embrace some new opportunities, because if you open yourself up, whether it be in the electrical field or in life, but specifically here for the electrical field, like the more things that you are open to trying, the more different, because there's so many avenues for this career. You know, you never know when you'll find the thing that really is it for you, that it's the thing that you really enjoy. And honestly, at this point, and I'm sure this is true for you guys too, like I'm having trouble narrowing it down because there's so many good.
What a great problem to have.
Yeah, exactly. First world.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, no, embrace the chance to try something new, try something that you haven't done, because it's now is the time to do it.
Yeah, right on, man. Stay curious. Yeah.
Exactly.
Man, we are going to put Hunt on the map with this one.
That
was great.
I don't want to completely cut off exactly what that was, but because you mentioned it, and this is about getting to know the people of Hunt real quick, if you were to answer the question as if it's elementary school, what are your hobbies? Tell us a little bit about what you guys like to do outside of work, because you are human beings. You are great people based on what you guys just kind of explained to us in 30 minutes here. So real quick, a couple things you guys enjoy doing outside of work.
Like to watch hockey, play hockey, golf, a lot of golf, video games. I don't know, just anything to I don't know, keep my mind off other stuff.
Yeah.
Love it.
Chase your kids around.
Oh man, yeah. I love those kids. They changed everything for me. You know,
They do.
You have something to really live for.
Yeah.
You know, so yes, being a father. But you know, I really enjoy cars.
Great.
I love airplanes. I like history.
Yeah.
Liked lifting weights. Once upon a time, you know, really want to get back into that again. And just
there's different stages to the whole kid thing. You'll have time.
Yes. I take a
You will have
keen
time.
interest in my lawn.
Yeah.
You know,
That's it, man.
when I can.
Can't wait to get
And
Did you
yeah.
return yet?
Oh man.
There's a shocking amount of lawnmower discussion.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Grant, what do you like to do?
Honestly, I'm a little bit of a workaholic. I still have another job, but I definitely want to get back out and golf this summer.
Yeah.
I kind of have as every golfer does, I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with golf, but
I have heard that.
yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I definitely enjoy camping, getting out far. I live in South Minneapolis, so it's nice to get far away from people.
Yeah.
So,
Right on.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Love it. Yeah, it was awesome, guys. That was what we expected, and we appreciate you guys. And again, though, right? Like, we heard great things about you guys, and you're here for a reason. And you know, the expectations that you guys would kind of be, let's just say, industry leaders through at the apprentice level. Okay, and it's being able to speak to what you guys are doing, but also being able to speak to kind of what this career is like and the opportunities that you all have in front of you when you do turn out. So appreciate your time. We can't thank you enough for coming in.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
What he
Seriously,
said.
Yeah.
Right on.
Really,
You guys
yeah.
are awesome.
Yeah.
Let's roll.